Thank you very much. International Financial Reporting Standard number 5 has a very long and rather pompous title: Non-Current Assets Held for Sale and Discontinued Operations. Now, I've inserted their balance sheet and P&L. I'd like to step back from the detail for a moment before we have a look at the definitions. So normally we start with the definition. Let me just rein the idea of a definition in for a moment. If something is called a non-current asset, I think the expectation from the user's perspective is that it has a life of more than one accounting period, and the expectation is the asset will be there next year. Now, when we are serving up financial information, we always are telling the shareholders what happened last year, what happened at this point in time and previously. But really, often what the shareholders want to know is what is going to happen in the future. And the framework calls out for. The framework desires that information, wherever possible, should be relevant, to be useful, it has to have a faithful representation, and to be useful, it has to be relevant. So if I have a non-current asset which is held for sale, I know that I'm principally going to recover from the asset by selling it. And that asset has got a death wish on it. That asset will not be there this time next year. So on that basis, the accounting treatment for an asset which is held for sale is very, very different. How do we show it? Show it as a current asset, yeah, because our prediction is it's not going to be there. Because we are primarily now recovering the asset from selling it and not using it, this means that I will cease depreciation. And I will look to write the asset down. Yeah? If the carrying value of the asset is 10, but I'm looking to sell it for 8, I will anticipate and write it down to 8. If, on the other hand, it's in the books at 10, and I'm looking to sell it for 20, then I will leave it at 10. I won't anticipate the profit. So, if we think about non-current assets held for sale, in other words, the principal recovery is sale and not from using we present as a current asset, we cease depreciation, and we write down to the fair value less cost to sell. Now the reason that we do that is to be relevant, is to be predictive, is to help the users understand. Now comes the technical part. So that's the big picture. That's the reason and justification as held for sale. Because once we got it as held for sale, current asset, no depreciation, write down the asset. Now the conditions for held for sale must be learnt and must be met. So conditions, they must all be met at the year end. So the conditions to have an asset as held for sale are as follows, and all of these conditions must be met. Management have got to be committed to making the sale, and there's got to be an active plan to make the sale. The asset itself has got to be in a suitable condition for immediate use. The asset for sale has got to be in a suitable condition for immediate sale. So any shareholder approval has to be granted. You can't have an asset which is held for sale which is needed to complete a contract. You must be able to sell the asset in its present condition. You can't be greedy, so you should look to sell the asset at a reasonable price. And if these conditions are met, that you've got a commitment to sell the asset, that there's an active plan to sell the asset, that's in a suitable condition for immediate sale, that you're asking a reasonable price. If all of these conditions are met, surely it will be highly probable that the asset will be sold within 12 months. And on that basis, you reclassify the item to current assets. On that basis, you write it down to the fair value less cost to sell, and on that basis, you cease depreciation. So conditions that must be met. There has to be a commitment. There has to be an active plan. The asset has to be in a suitable condition for immediate sale. A suitable condition for immediate sale in its present condition. It has to be offered at a reasonable price. And then the sale has to be highly probable in less than 12 months. So all of these conditions have to be met. A commitment to sell, an active plan to sell, suitable condition for immediate sale, offered for sale at a reasonable price. There's a bit of judgment involved there, isn't there? What is a reasonable price? Abandonment doesn't count. If you are planning on abandoning the asset, that's not held for sale. Held for sale implies you will be selling it. So the idea of abandonment is not held for sale. I think there's a small example that we can play with. Because, I think it's application. Page 141, flat. Page 141, flat. Explain the accounting treatment for both assets in the account. Now, a year end is December, and we've got a class of assets which we depreciate on a straight line basis at 10%. Now, in an exam answer, I would start with the definition of held for sale. Yeah? An asset is only held for sale if it meets all of the conditions. All of the conditions have to be met at the year end. That has to be a commitment, an active plan, suitable condition, reasonable price, highly probable within 12 months. Now, we have an asset which cost 20 and at the start of the year was 4 years old. So with depreciation of 10%, that would mean you would charge depreciation of 2, and 2. That would give you a net book value at the beginning of the year of 12. In September, 9 months into the year, we decide to sell the asset. Tick, there's a commitment. We decide to instruct an agent. Tick, there's an active plan. Now, the asset hasn't been sold. It's in good working condition. Tick, it's in a suitable condition for immediate sale. It's being marketed for 3. This is the current price, current market value. Tick, it therefore, we're offering it for sale at a reasonable price. On this basis, there is no information to contradict the assumption that if you are committed to selling this, you have an active plan, it's a reasonable price, surely the sale is highly probable within 12 months. You may not have an active buyer lined up now, but there's no reason to believe that the asset will not be sold. So on that basis, I would say at the year end, it meets all the conditions. And therefore, it would be classified as a current asset, and we would cease depreciation, and we would be involved in a write-down. We would be involved in a write-down to the fair value less cost to sell. Now let me think about the carrying value that the asset would have been at when it was designated held for sale. Chronologically speaking, the asset would have been in the books at the beginning of the year at 12. So that's at the beginning of the year because the asset is 4 years old. You would cease depreciation on the asset being classified. You would cease depreciation on the asset being classified as held for sale. So you would depreciate it up to the 30th of September. That's my carrying value. When an asset is designated as held for sale, you've got a challenge. Yeah, so the asset was 4 years old, cost 20. Yeah, so we then had another 9 months of this year. So therefore we end up with 10,500. But now we know we're going to principally recover this asset, not from using it, but from selling it. And so I then look at the fair value less cost to sell. Now how much is the fair value less cost to sell? I don't know. I do know. 2,700. Yeah? I'm happy with 2,700. There's a loss, and we've got to recognize that loss. We've got to charge that loss. There's no suggestion the asset has been revalued, so on that basis the loss will be charged to the P&L. $10,500, $2,700, and therefore the difference there is a loss of, what is that, 7,800? Yeah, 7,008? Yeah? Now if you really want me to get excited, I could say several things. First of all, this is a non-cash expense, so in a cash flow statement would be added back in your reconciliation. Yeah? Secondly, I don't think you would get current tax relief on that. So although the write-down is a further 7,800, I think that would create a deductible temporary difference because the carrying value of the asset would go down but the tax base would remain the same. So, if the examiner wants you to talk about cash flow, wants you to talk about deferred tax, you can bring these things in, yeah? But I think we're just looking at the application of held for sale. This is asset number 1. Asset number 2.